Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, great. So I flew in yesterday from Vancouver, British Columbia. I was on the plane all day. It's okay. There wasn't that many people there. I don't know why. I think there was a pandemic or something going on. But it made it here safe and sound. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I am truly honored to be here, to be able to speak to you about what's happening in Canada. I see what's happening with our hospice is just a symptom of what's happening in Canada. I come as maybe to give you a warning. You need to be ready. You need to know what you're going to do when it hits here, because it's coming. It's like a contagion that's coming to this country as well. I want to have full disclosure. When I speak to you today, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a Catholic, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-family, I'm pro-God, and I am pro-gun. But that doesn't... That's really not all that popular in Canada right now, I'll tell you that. Let's get started here. I'll tell you, this is where I come from. Vancouver is on the west coast, right above Seattle. And I come from a place called Delta, which is basically a suburb of Vancouver. And I actually work in Vancouver, so I travel every day. My husband works in Vancouver, so it's like a little bedroom community, really, but it's its own municipality. Very beautiful, sits on the ocean. And I'll tell you something, we love our politics in Canada, but we only love a particular kind of politics in Canada. We love the Clintons, where I live. Where I live in the Lower Mainland, we love the Clintons. They come to speak, and we've got people, and Michelle Obama comes to speak, and we have people lining up around the block to get in there. And here they are. They're so wonderful. These are the elites, the progressives. They are smarter than everybody else. They are enlightened. They are courageous, and they are the champions of human rights. And we love Bernie. We love Bernie up in Canada. And guess what? Bernie loves us. Bernie loves our healthcare system. Well, I just bet. It's socialized healthcare system. And private healthcare is actually illegal. I mean, it happens, but we actually have a law that says it's not supposed to happen, just public. With here. And now when we have conservative speakers come up to Canada, well, they don't fare so well. We don't want any conservative speakers. An example of Stephen Molyneux and Lauren Southern that tried to come up to Vancouver last year and have a talk. And oh, look who came out. Antifa, okay? They are I call them the foot soldiers of the Fourth Reich. That's what they do. They come in there and they make sure that they keep order, right? And then they start with their anti-hate campaigns. And then they go and terrorize places where people want to speak. And they phone in bomb threats. And they get people to, target any venue where any conservative speaker wants to speak, and they're very successful. So you see, we're just fascists. That's all we are. We have a conservative point of view. So they actually shut down this particular talk last year. It had to be canceled, and every other conservative speaker that comes to speak in Vancouver will get the same kind of treatment. Some other things that we have happening, just so that you get a bit of a sense of what I'm dealing with here. You may know this story. This is a wonderful woman was just speaking before this talk about her daughter. Well, we have a situation as well in Canada. In fact, in Delta. Delta is just the epicenter, okay, of all kinds of stuff. This father is a friend of mine. I had direct contact with this story, as a matter of fact, where he came to me with his information, and I got him a lawyer, start fighting. He was convicted of family violence because he called his daughter a she. And he was gagged. He's not allowed to speak. I'm not allowed to show you this picture. This is illegal in my country. His name is Rob Hoogland. That's illegal. I can't tell you that. So now we go back to court on Monday, and they asked, what's going to happen with this? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. The state is after your children. Yes, they are, because we have lived it. The state has more power. The schools, the doctors, the judges have more power than the people do, where I come from. On Monday, he has to go and face criminal contempt charges because he spoke and gave his story to a reporter, and we think he'll go to jail. That's Vancouver. That's where I come from. And of course, this is where we shut down the economy because protesters and radicals are the ones that control our country now, right? We kill the pipelines. By the way, Canada and oil was the reason that Canada became a prosperous country. Well, we're just shut that down because they want us all living in our yurts, practicing our mindfulness and burning our own dung for heat. That's what we're supposed to be doing up there. Oh, and of course, anytime you go out to any kind of an event, you're dealing with these people. These are the Vancouver Revolutionary Communists, right? And they come out, their faces, these are the Antifa friends. And they come out and they make sure everybody stays in order. And you notice the little banner they have there and the little scallop that's cut out. Well, these banners, they wrap people up in them, right? And then they punch them in the inside. They get in there and they give it to them, right? We know how we're supposed to stay in line. You know, I decided though, I've had enough of it. So I went out one day and I met them with my true north, strong and free, right? I didn't go well. They had me encircled, Antifa and all these other people had me encircled with the names of fascist and the racist and you name it. Well, that's okay. They don't seem to understand that I really don't care anymore because as far as I'm concerned, my country is broken. We have a progressivism and a socialism in my country that has led to legalization of marijuana, safe injection sites in our cities where, you know, they let people just go there in a nice, safe, and clean environment and shoot up, and they give them a little doggy bag on their way out with little drug paraphernalia in it. Or we have this gender fluid ideology in the school system where they're telling 5-year-olds, you don't have to be a girl, you don't have to be a boy, you can just be whatever you want. We have the destruction of parental rights in my country. So, like I said, everybody else has rights except parents, right? And I'll tell you, Delta is the ground zero for the destruction of parental rights because of Rob in his case. So I said, you know, and of course we have euthanasia, which I'm going to get to in a moment. And I decided, a group of us said, we're going to try to change things. So we started a political party called the PPC, and I ran for political office just last October in our federal election. But wouldn't you know it? Oh, and so there I am. There's my poster, right? Okay, hooray. Basically, it's a conservative party because in Canada now, conservatives, true conservatives, have been disenfranchised. There isn't anybody for us to vote for. So we started a party for free speech and free market and limited government and nationalism and tax cuts, all those good things, right? Family values. Well, guess what? Here they come. But put the Nazi thing on my sign, of course, because, you know, I'm a conservative, so I must be a fascist. Oh, they destroyed my signs, spray painted my signs. All right. Oh, they knocked them down. Oh, and they just stole them. The end, right? That was pretty much the end of the People's Party of Canada is still going, but we didn't do well. You can imagine we didn't do well, but we tried because we're honestly trying to, you know, take our country back. But it doesn't matter because I'm a fighter. I'm not going away. It's because I'm a breast cancer survivor, right? I'm a warrior. I already fought the biggest fight of my life, so these people don't scare me. And that's what actually brought me to the Delta Hospice Society. 5 years ago, when I was going through my cancer journey, I went to the Delta Hospice Society. They had programs for counseling and other kinds of things to help people that were going through cancer. And I was lucky. I was a lucky one. I've been cancer-free now for 5 years. Thank the Lord. Thank you very much. Thank you. But you know, some of my friends, they didn't make it, and they ended up in the hospice next door, and they passed away. So you know, this is why the Delta Hospice Society holds a special place in my heart, and I will fight for that. I will fight for that place to keep it going. That's our sign, the Delta Hospice Society. And this is our founder, Nancy Macy. She founded it on her kitchen table 25 years ago. This community where I live needs a place where people in their end of life can go and be taken care of, to find comfort and compassion, and also their families can come. And it's been a wonderful jewel. It's been a jewel in our community. And here we have a beautiful press release. The British Columbia government was behind us. The Fraser Health Authority was behind us. Everyone was so happy 10 years ago because we were a hospice palliative care facility. Now they're not so happy with us now because we are a hospice and a palliative care facility. So here we are, the Irene Thomas Hospice. And this is the hospice itself. It's a beautiful building. This is inside. As you walk in the door, this is what you see. You see like an open area, and then you see the place where people have their meals. There's a kitchen. There's an open area for families to meet or to have visitors. And so there's a library. It's a very calm and peaceful place when you walk in. This is one of the rooms themselves for our residents. And you see it's quite spacious, so their families can come, and this is a couch that pulls out, and they can spend the evening. They can sleep there with them. And sometimes our patients, they stay a few days or a few weeks or sometimes a few months. It's quite amazing. People even leave. So, sometimes we have a miracle. And this is the supportive care center, which is right next door to it. And this is where we have the counseling programs and the programs for people who are, facing end of life, and their families can come. So a lot of the programming that we do ends up in this particular building. And the other building, the hospice, is where people actually live. And we have a charity shop. We have a secondhand store that we run in order to create funds to run the hospice and the programming next to the hospice. And for the most part, it's been very successful. Not so much lately because it's been boycotted, but we're hoping that eventually it'll come back and that we can bring some sort of semblance of rationality and sanity back to our community. But what I want to do first, I want to tell you what hospice and palliative care is, because I think it's important. And it was founded, sort of the modern hospice movement was founded by a woman named Dame Cicely Saunders. And she was from the UK. She was a nurse, and she turned into a doctor. And she basically introduced effective pain management. And she believed in living with dignity. See, we have activist groups up in Canada, and they talk about dying with dignity. Well, ultimately, we're concerned about living with dignity in our last days. And her whole idea was about total pain, that we can relieve total pain, physical and emotional and social and spiritual. And most hospices that were in function to this point up in time were religious orders. This is like the first time that we sort of brought it out of a religious order and into the mainstream, if you will. And we turned it into what's called palliative medicine and made it like on an institutional level. So we combine scientific knowledge with care and love, and to this whole new end-of-life care. So there was doctors that would operate in a team to relieve where they could not heal any longer. And it brought hope, and it brought consolation to the end of people's lives. And I want to tell you that, Dame Cicely Saunders, she was an agnostic when she started. By the time she finished, she was a Christian. She was a strong Christian. So we're very proud to have that legacy of her. So now Dr. Balfour Mount, he is a Canadian. And he went and he studied with Dame Cicely Saunders. And he followed what she had to say. So he was the founder of the academic discipline of palliative medicine at McGill University in Montreal, in Canada. And it was the first faculty of medicine-based program in palliative care. And I want to just read you. Now, Mr. Mount, he's older now. He's aged, and he's infirm, and he's very frail, and he can't fight this battle any longer. So, we're looking for new warriors. But he did write a letter. He wrote a letter to us, and he said, "The vision that Cicely and I shared was that of a new medical discipline and community culture of care that enabled living fully at the end of life while minimizing the symptoms and fears of the dying process. It was never to intentionally hasten death. For over 4 decades, palliative care has been providing expert medical management to assist and support those who are dying without hastening death or administering a lethal dose of drugs to end life. So you know where we're coming from. We believe in respecting people in their last days and helping them to live a full life in the time that they have left, giving them relief, to making their existence stable, giving them peace, and in that peace, we give them time to reconcile and celebrate with their families, time to come to terms with what they're facing, what's approaching. And honestly, I would say that this hospice and palliative care is a national treasure. It's a national treasure, not only national, but it's a treasure of humanity. And in Canada, we have a lot of hospice and palliative care facilities within hospitals, and also the kind of things that, I don't know why it's doing that. A lot of the things that we're doing in private facilities across the country. But it pains me to tell you, this is what's happening to hospice and palliative care in Canada. There's a book burning going on. And it's all because of medical assistance in dying. This is a fancy way. We do the medical assistance in dying, so I don't know where they got that. They're trying to appropriate words to make it seem legitimate. But it's euthanasia. And our federal government passed a bill a few years back, which basically made euthanasia legal. It was an amendment to the criminal code, which allows doctors and nurses to assist people to commit suicide or to provide euthanasia. And basically it just says that they're not going to be charged with murder. So they can help them and they're not going to go to jail. So basically it's non-culpable homicide. That's what's happening here. Let's get to my notes here. So yeah, so you have to be 18 years of age or over. You have to have a foreseeable death. Euthanasia is, my friend Alex Schadenberg is here. He's going to talk about this in much more detail tomorrow. I can only just give you very cursory sort of an overview of what this is, but basically a doctor can come and give an IV to a patient. It takes about 20 minutes and the person is dead. And each doctor gets about, in BC, it gets about $400 every time they do this, right? So I'm thinking it's actually quite lucrative. And I'll tell you, we have a doctor up there. We call her Dr. Death, because by day she has an abortion clinic, and then on her off time or her spare time, she goes and does this euthanasia. So Dr. Death, all she needs to do is basically just line these people up, and she's doing very well for herself, I have to say. At the moment, 1% of Canadians are dying by euthanasia, but each year this is growing exponentially. And so MAID is destroying our national treasure, and it's turning our highly trained palliative care professionals into party planners. And what we're seeing in Canada is the dawn of the death industry. This is actually one ad of one of these people who've come into this sort of death industry. It's called A Party to Die For. And their website says, pick a theme, plan activities, play charades, dance the limbo, tell dirty jokes, sing, share memories. It's your party, you decide. Perhaps a solemn affair or a black tie dinner. How about a pizza party? Anything goes. Whatever you choose, make it a meaningful way to say goodbye. So the culmination of these parties, right, is like the death. That's what, like, they give you the IV and off you go and everybody's there, and it's some sort of very strange, ghoulish ritual, it seems, is happening, right? Talk about the culture of death. Well, now we have this whole ritual around people being like, remember the Aztecs? I mean, it kind of reminds me of that. You have this ceremony and then they kill people. Here's another ad, happy coffins. Oh, you can design your very own coffin. And they have like contests and stuff. So you can like have a coffin for like a wine crate or a beer bottle or a car. You can make your own and then they'll put you in there. And here's another one, last outfit. So people help you get dressed. What do you want to wear? You want to put in some kind of outfit, some kind of costume, right? Oh, it's great. It's lots of fun. And you can become a death doula, right? You can sit right next to the person. You can do all your little, what they do exactly, but I don't want to know, honestly. But yeah, so these young people, what do you want to do with your life? You want to be a death doula? That's a very lucrative career as well. So this is what we're facing up in Canada, right? And so here we go. Here's some guy. This is his maid party. This is euthanasia party. Singing, they're having music here. He is sitting in his bed. He's got all his friends around. The culmination, of course, is when he gets his shot, of his death shot. And he's happy, right? Here's another one. Here's her maid party. And she's very happy, too, that she's doing it. And her granddaughter, actually, I found this in the newspaper, made a big article about how happy she was to, said goodbye to her grandmother at such a wonderful party. Yeah. So, it's this whole idea of just the desensitizing death. It's nothing. Doesn't mean anything. And so it's in this environment, so I give you the background, it's in this environment that the Delta Hospice Society has to function. And it's within these laws in Canada that we're trying to survive. And in fact, here's a little map. So here we are, the Delta Hospice Society at the top, and right next to us, literally 1 minute away, is the Delta Hospital. And they provide this euthanasia service there. But according to the government, that's not good enough. Everybody, every facility has to have euthanasia. So even though you can see the hospital right from the window of the hospice, that's not close enough. No. You have to provide it right in your very own, right in those beds, right in those very own beds. So what happened then was, in the last few months, we've had a huge upheaval within our society. We've had a huge power struggle. We have had to fight one another. We fight our neighbors now. Friends who were my friends are no longer my friends because it has been so polarizing within the community that I come from. I showed you a picture of Nancy Macy, our founder. Well, she was fired. She was fired because she was seen as one of the people that would stop euthanasia from coming into our hospice. So board of directors took control. I happened to be sitting on that board at that time. I was one of 8. I said no, everybody said yes. So I sat there constantly saying no, and everybody saying yes. They fired this woman. Hold on, where's her? Oh, you already saw her. Hold on now. Okay. They fired this woman with cause, after 25 years, and gave her zero money. Zero. Nothing. Kicked her out. So, of course, we were faced with a wrongful dismissal suit. But in any case, they wanted to punish this woman for not allowing euthanasia into the society. So we had a power struggle, and the membership came out and we voted. We had to have 2 AGMs because the first one was a total circus, total fiasco. So we had to have another one a month later. In the meantime, this board of directors, which I was sitting there, they approved euthanasia. Come on in, Fraser Health Authority, show us how to do it. So we had the next AGM in the next couple of weeks, at which point I would say the pro-lifers, I would say the people who believe in hospice and palliative care got together, and we voted out the old board. They were all kicked off, right? And the new board was elected. People who cared about palliative care, supported by our membership, people who cared about the sanctity of life, they got on the board, and they said, Angelina, you're the president, right? So that's why I became the president of the Delta Hospice Society. Yeah, thank you. And so first thing we did, we said, well, we're reversing that euthanasia thing that this other board voted in. So we reversed it immediately, like the next day. And we said to them, he said, you know what, Fraser Health Authority, Province of British Columbia, this is the Delta Hospice Society. This is not the Delta Auschwitz Society, okay? How do you think that went over? Not too well. So then we said, this hospice isn't a place people come to die. It is a place where they come to live well, for the little time they have left. It is a place of celebration, connection, comfort, and support. It is a place of safety for the dying and the grieving. And we believe that people who are dying have the right to sanctuary, that there is no reason why they have to lay next to somebody who's being killed, and have to be in the facility as someone who's being killed. They don't have to endure these parties, these suicide parties, these death parties that will come into the hospice when we allow euthanasia. It's not so much to ask. Can you imagine the reaction that we got? That's what happened. An angry, bloodthirsty mob came after us. All right, full-on attack from the media, social media, from the government, and a personal attack on myself. So it started. Government started with their bullying and their intimidation. And you see, I like to go to the meeting, they tell people, they say, oh, we're really trying hard with this Delta Hospice Society, but they're so difficult. But we're doing everything we can. And everyone's like, yeah, good for you. Well, this is what I was summoned. I was summoned by the Fraser Health Authority to come to a Starbucks, to be told. See, we didn't even have the respect to be invited to their offices to sit down as a board and discuss this. No. I was summoned to a Starbucks in downtown Vancouver and told, basically, kill or be killed. You will provide euthanasia or we'll take your funding away. You'll be finished. That's the consultation that we were given. That's the mediation that we had. So then we started with all these, nasty and bullying letters that came our way. This one is like, when are you going to do it? They'll give you until, he basically gave me like a week. The day he met me, he gave me a week to, get euthanasia in there. I just said, what are we going to, whatever, we're not going to do it. And so then we got the next letter. This is a policy. You have to do it. This is our policy. Then we got the next letter. And basically this letter said that, we got this last letter last week. This was the letter we got. Basically it said that the government is now canceling your funding. You're finished. They give us $1.4 million a year. We have a budget of about $3 million. And with that money that they give us, we put it in the beds, the actual beds of the hospice for nursing staff and to be able to operate it. And we asked them, we said, we understand you have a policy. You have a policy. If it's less than 50% government funded, we can opt out of this MAIDS, this euthanasia thing. We got a policy, they say to me. But we're not interested in giving you that option. So they wouldn't allow, I said, we'll give you back $750,000. Just leave us alone. Allow us to just do the hospice and palliative care work that we do so well. No, not interested. No. So, not only do they not want to partner with us anymore, because basically it was a partnership, right? They're giving us some money. We're going to do this hospice and palliative care work. Not only do they not want to partner with us any longer, but now they have said to us that, you know what, you're not even allowed to be a hospice anymore. Delta Hospice Society is finished. It's over. We're a private organization. I don't know what that means to anybody here, but where I come from, the government can't tell you that you can't be a private organization anymore. You can't do hospice work that you've been doing for 25 years. And we have a lease on the land because we rent the land. It belongs to the government. They said, and you know what? Now that you're not going to be a hospice, well, you've just defaulted on your lease. So, and you know what that means? When you default on your lease, we're going to seize your assets. So here we are. We fundraised $9 million to produce those beautiful buildings that you saw, to produce the hospice and the palliative care support center. And the government has told us that we're not only not going to be a hospice, we're not going to have any funding, that basically they're going to try to walk in and steal everything that we have privately worked for. This, ladies and gentlemen, is stone cold communism. That is what has come to my country. Communism. But of course that was the government. That's what the government did. But they weren't done with us yet. No. Now we have to deal with the personal attacks. Personal attacks on Facebook. This is one of my love letters. I thought I'd just put up there so that you can kind of see what they're, how they speak. This is very tame and quite nice actually. About particularly when your convictions are outdated and continue to make you a pariah in the community. Congratulations on your continued bigotry and intolerance. Right? Because if you disagree with the progressives, you're just a bigot and a racist and a fascist. Okay, that's it. So there's 3 Facebook groups that have been that have basically do nothing but just attack me in my community and the other board members, right? So there was 2 that had that were already in the community. They just sort of took over and just started talking about the hospice, and people that were administrators said, you know what, maybe you shouldn't talk about it so much. Oh, okay then. So they went and opened up their own Facebook group just to talk about the hospice 24/7, that nobody can tell them not to. So we're dealing with all these people basically calling me a monster. I'm despicable. I'm disgusting. I'm a religious fanatic and a religious zealot. So that's Angeline, Ireland, in the community of Delta. And I got to share this with you because this one's my favorite, actually, of all the memes and everything else that I have. Yeah. Angelina, Ireland, on her way to do the work of Jesus. Right? Yeah. Oh, that's quite funny, actually. So this is how we're being treated, like in our community. This is how we've been treated by the government. Newspaper headlines in our local paper every week. It's it's the Hospice Society, what they're doing. It's now become Angelina Ireland's Hospice Society, right? It's mine. It's like I'm the one, and it's her and her and her. And I'm like, oh, okay. These people don't seem to understand. It doesn't bother me. I think they think that as mean as they can be, that somehow will go away. But I'll tell you something, we're not going away, right? There's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can say. We're not going away. So here's one. Delta Hospice loses funding after refusing to provide assistance in dying. So this went all over the country. And I had people calling me, reporters calling me from all over the country, asking for a comment, except that the government, they made this news release, and they sent it to the media before telling us. So the media was calling us, oh, you lost your funding. And we were saying, oh, did we? Okay. So we couldn't even get our mind around the message. This is psychological warfare. This is how it's done, right? We don't even know what the message is to be able to respond, and it takes us a few days. I'll tell you, this is a volunteer position for me. All this grief, okay, is volunteer. And so we have all volunteer members. We have to get ourselves all together. We have to discuss it. We have to put down a message. We have to get a news release out. So by the time we did that, news cycle is finished, right? And it's saying, oh, look, the Hospice Society isn't even responding. They're just silent. Well, yeah, because we're not there yet, right? We're trying to get our head around this. So now that we're ready to talk, they're not so interested in listening anymore. They don't want to listen. It's finished, right? That's done and gone. So, but they did, there's another one. BC government ready to take hospice from society that refuses to provide assisted suicide or euthanasia. So, this is where we sit as an organization, bullied, beaten down by the government, by our community. What we've decided to do is fight back. That's what we're going to do, right? So we're going to have ourselves a rally April 4th, and we're going to go to Victoria, which is where the provincial legislature sits in Victoria. We're going to go to them on the steps of Victoria to the government, and we're going to start telling them, you know what? We have people here that support us, that support the work that we do. I've had a great amount of support from Alex Schadenberg, who's here. He's going to present tomorrow. He's been such a great help to help us to organize this rally that we're going to have, to try to bring awareness. I try to speak to everybody that I can across Canada, try to talk to them about what's happening to our society, how we're being killed because we won't kill. So we have hospice palliative care physicians in Canada that are standing and that are defending us because they know what hospice and palliative care is. It does not include murder. We do nothing to hasten death. So we have these groups that are helping, trying to help us. Alex put out a petition across the country. We have 20,000 signatures already, saying that hospice organizations must not be forced to euthanize. And I'll tell you what's happening. Delta Hospice Society is the test case in Canada, right? That's why they want to silence us. So they want to make sure that we go away, because all other hospices are facing this, where the government's telling them, you must kill your patients now. This is what you've got to do or you're not going to get funding. So for us to stand in defiance of this agenda, the social agenda, is very threatening. I'll tell you, it's so threatening that the BC Minister of Health himself made the announcement that they were going to shut down the Delta Hospice Society, right? This is a health minister that really is quite busy right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, that's coming through Canada and everywhere else, but he's got enough time to stand in a press conference and call us out and tell everybody how he's decimating us because we're not euthanizing our patients. So we must have some kind of power. Must be something that we're doing that's you're not happy about. So we're going to work on that. And now we're going to decide. We've got lawyers, and what we're going to do is we're going to decide whether or not we're going to fight the government of British Columbia on questions about the law versus policy. See, they've told everybody in BC, it's the law. They have to provide euthanasia, it's the law. Well, actually, it's not the law, right? I told you what the law was. The law is about you're not going to be able to, convict a doctor of murder. The law didn't say anything about forcing and compelling organizations or people to kill other people. That's not the law. And this is a lot of the misconception that they're trying to put on to people in Canada, that you have no choice. But we say it's time to fight back, and it's time to show people that, in fact, they do have a choice. And we're going to figure out what the law actually is. And we're also going to figure out about conscience rights in Canada. Conscience rights of organizations, people. Our Hospice Society, for example, operates under the Species Societies Act. And under that act, we're actually treated as an individual. It's okay. Do individuals have the right to conscientiously object to providing euthanasia to people? Well, of course they do. That's just an unalienable right. Of course we do, right? But with the bullying and the power of the state that comes down on ordinary people, here we are now. We're going to have to fight. We're going to have to fight and make it a charter of rights and freedoms. That's like our Constitution, but it's not really a Constitution at all, but it's our Constitution. It says that, we have certain rights and freedoms. And now we have to find that we have to defend those. This little hospice, little not-for-profit organization is going to have to stand up against the government. This is David and Goliath. We don't even have much money, and the government has unlimited resources, right? But what we do is we're calling people to stand with us. We're calling lawyers to come and help us. We're calling organizations to support us in our pursuit now against what is right and what is just. And we're hoping, and we're doing a lot of praying. We're doing a lot of praying. And I want to introduce you to some of the most courageous people in Canada these days. This is the board of directors, which I serve with alongside. A couple aren't there, but I want to tell you from left to right, these are the people. Mark Rule, Susan Rivers, Jim Taggart, Danielle Martel, the far right-hand side there. She's actually a priest. She's an Anglican priest, and she has been persecuted to no end because of her faith, because of her stand for life. Another woman's not there. Her name is Elizabeth Lawson. And a shout out to her and Kath Palavox. There's 7 of us. And we're going to stand up against the powers that be, the elites in our country, because somebody has to stand for justice, and none of us are afraid. We're warriors, and we're calling to the warriors out there to join us. Because, and I want to tell you, from the bottom of my heart, to be careful. All this stuff was a slow drip. All this stuff was masked around, being a human rights campaign. A human rights for people to have choice in their last days, autonomy in their last days. That's not what this ended up being, right? So be careful. We're sending out a warning to you that you have to be very careful. You have to nip this in the bud before it gets here, before they compel you to kill your neighbors and your family, because that's where we are. And I want to ask you, please, I want to ask you to pray for Canada, to pray for the Delta Hospice Society, to please ask God to bless Canada, because there's a lot of darkness there. We need saving. And I just want to say, God bless the United States of America. And I want to also say, God bless President Trump. God bless President Trump for his stand for pro-life. And thank you very much for listening to me today.
Our volunteers took questions, and while I'm waiting for the questions to come up, so we'll have we could have as much as about 18 minutes of questions and answers. But the format will be that I will ask the question, and then Angelina will give the answer. And again, we'll take as many as we can. If we have time for all, that'd be great. But after the question and answer, I do have some announcements. So please remain seated, okay, after the question and answer session.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Do you want to do that?
Okay, I can tell that story. It's very important. We have a play now in Canada, British Columbia. If you are considered a religious or a faith-based organization, they'll give you an exemption. So you don't have to provide euthanasia in your facility if you're classified as one of those. I mean, now see they torture us and they ridicule us for being Christians, but they're not giving us a religious exemption. Okay, so we actually have to try to go and find that if we feel that's important. And at this moment, we might, but I also think it's more important to just stand on our the fact that just conscience rights. Maybe we just stand on that. That protects religious organizations, but it also protects regular people. So one of these organizations is called Louis Breyer Care Home. It was a Jewish care home, and Dr. Death, that I referred to earlier, with the abortion clinic by day and the running around doing euthanasia by night, she went into this Jewish old folks home, retirement place, and she actually euthanized a resident. She snuck in at night and she killed him. And the next day, there was an uproar. I mean, why would you go to a Jewish care home, and you kill someone? However, nothing happened to this person. She wasn't hauled up on the carpet. She still practices every day her deathly duties. So, even though they say you have protection, you don't have any protection, right? This is what's happening in Vancouver. This is what's happening in Canada.
If you were a religious-based entity, could the government pull funding?
Right. So as I said, if we have that exemption, they're supposed to leave us alone. If we went and got that exemption, now I don't know that they would. They probably wouldn't. But what we're concerned about is even if you have a religious exemption, that you're not safe. We see that the organization is called Dying with Dignity, and they are going after. That's their next frontier, right? They're going after their religious organization. Right. They went after the nuns already. Right? They went after the nuns in Nova Scotia, right? They had a hospice, and they were not allowed to not provide maid. So the nuns had to get together and do some kind of a deal where in the actual, their residence hospice, they would not do it, but then they had a little building next door, right? And so they just kind of pushed the person through the door into the building next door where they would get euthanasia, right? So that was the compromise. It was hardly a compromise, but yeah. So that's the kind of thing that now we are forced to make provision. We're forced to compromise, or else they'll shut you down. and then you'll have nothing, right? So in the interest of trying to take care of the sick and the dying, you make these deals with the devil, what you've done, right? To try to ensure that you can keep your facility. So yeah, nobody is safe.
When did euthanasia start in Canada?
This was about 4 years ago, I guess. 3, 4 years. June of 2016, right? It was this amendment to the criminal code where doctors and nurses would not get charged with murder for providing this murder. And what happened from there is that each province then brought their own legislation through so they could roll it out, and they could figure out how they were going to handle all of this. But what is happening, and BC is like the first case of this, is that they're making it so difficult for every society, every facility, every institution not to provide this euthanasia, right? So what it started at was this exemption for people so they don't get charged with murder. And what we're seeing happen is hospices being attacked. And we were told at the beginning when that first happened, look, oh, don't worry, your hospice will be fine. Oh, never. And the next thing you know, we are being told you're not even going to be a hospice anymore if you don't do it. So you see that it's happened so quickly, not even 4 years, right? So fast. So I'm saying to you, the slow drip, and then all of a sudden, boom, done. So yeah.
What criteria do they use to decide who should have euthanasia? How do they know if there are people in Delta Hospice who meet their criteria for euthanasia?
So when people come into our hospice, they know first we don't do that. That's not a service that we provide. So if you want MAID, this is not the place for you. We try to make that clear. However, like I said, we have death with dying coming into our hospice all the time. I don't know if they're trying to recruit or what they're doing, but they're in there. And we get the odd one. Over the last 3 years, we've had 3 people who we've transferred out. We'll transfer them out if they want to go home and they want to have euthanasia, they want to go to the hospital next door. We'll prepare them and send them there. But at the moment, you have to have a foreseeable death in order to get this euthanasia, right? You have to be, of sound mind. You have to be able to, and you have to have a couple of witnesses to say that you actually want it. And then just before they do it for you, you have to sort of pass a test that you are of sound mind. But now you see we're having, like I said, the slow drip. Now we're having legislation that's being tabled that says you don't even have to have a foreseeable death. All you need to do is just want to die, right? That's what's coming down the pike next, and that'll hit the books. And well, like Dr. Death, right? She can witness and then she can kill him, right? How perfect. So it's very, very scary in Canada right now, because if you are just talking about someone who wants to die, then you're talking about the most vulnerable of our population, not only the elderly, but you're talking about the disabled, right? They're having a difficult time. They don't have money. They can't take care of themselves very well. There's no services for them. They might just decide, well, here's an option. Just kill yourself, right? You're looking at people with disabilities, you're looking at mature minors. Sorry? Yes, you look at the mentally ill, of course, the mentally ill. Mature minors, I want to tell you, here in British Columbia, where we have the kids who can decide they want to become the opposite sex, and they don't even need consent from their parents in British Columbia. 13 years old, that's the case I was discussing with you. She decided she's going to do it. Their parents don't matter what the parents say. Here we go. I'm going to kill myself. I had a bad day. I broke up with my boyfriend, or whatever. I just want to finish. I want to end it. It scares me to my core to think that a parent can get a call one day that their child has chosen euthanasia because they wanted to die. Right? These are possible. This is what's happening now.
Have the families of the patients you served rally to support your work?
No. No. People are frightened now. I would say people are scared now because they see what they did to us, right? They targeted us. They ostracized us from the community. you have to be an incredibly strong-willed individual to put up with what's happening. We had I lost about 4 or 5 board members. The ones that I have now they're the good ones. They're not leaving, but I lost about 4 or 5 board members in the last 4 months because they get on the board and then they get attacked. Oh, I don't need this. I don't need this. Off they leave. They leave. So there's now 7 of us, and I feel that we're strong. To ask people stick their neck out in the middle of a war, because this is a war, ladies and gentlemen. This is a cultural war. This is a war against the family. This is the war against life, right? This is the war against our children. And I'm fighting on the front lines of that war right now, every day. But a lot of people don't want to. They don't want to get engaged. It's much easier for them to just look the other way. Until, of course, it is their family, their kid, at which point it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late for them. But
is there ever a situation, or what if there were to be a situation where someone at the hospice decided they wanted euthanasia? What would you do?
yeah. So our policy is that we transfer them out right now. This is very, very rare, because when people come and get hospice and palliative care, they tend not to want euthanasia, right? If we can stabilize them, take their pain away and their symptoms and manage those things, they tend not to. Their anxiety level goes way down, right? They start to feel better. They start to feel more comfortable with the situation. Their family's allowed to come and spend the time with them. So it becomes it's like a big family, right? And so much support, and there's counselors, there's doctors and nurses. So this tends not to be an issue. No matter what they say, it's just not true. So we have had a couple, though, 3, and we have a couple wanted to go home. They just wanted to go home and have the procedure, and that's it. So we helped them to transfer them to go home, or by ambulance, or whatever, however one of them walked out. I'm going to go home and I'm going to have it. She just walked out the door. So that's, that happens. But we at this moment, we do not provide that service. And we say that, euthanasia and hospice and palliative care are diametrically opposed, that, that we will never accept that in our hospice, which is the reason why they have to get rid of us. We're too stubborn and too dangerous.
Could you explain more how you got rid of the board directors when you were just 1 out of 7?
Well, we had an annual general meeting. And what happened was you get together and people have to be reelected to the board of directors. So the election came, and we had enough people in our membership that ultimately this AGM was a referendum on euthanasia. And they knew the ones that were in favor of euthanasia, that most of them were sitting currently on the board, and they knew the ones that had come forward and said, well, I'll do it, and I'm against it. So they had these choices, right? So they voted who they wanted to sit on the board of directors, and every one of them that was up for re-election that was in favor of euthanasia was voted out. And so that's why we feel like we have a fairly strong membership that supports our choice to make euthanasia not available in our hospice. But again,
What happened to the executive director who was terminated?
Right, so Nancy Macy was terminated, and the most despicable part of it all is that after giving 25 years of her life to create this society, she got cancer, and so she was off of work for about 4 months, taking leukemia treatments. And the day that she was supposed to come back to work, they ended up at her door with the letter of dismissal, right? This is the callousness. These are the people that who want to have the power of life and death over you, right? These are the people who think they're so compassionate. And they ended up at her house with this letter saying, you're fired, and you're fired for cause, so you might be 75 years old, but you'll get nothing, right? So yeah, this was the whole environment around her. So I mean, of course, she had to sue them. She had to deal with that, wrongful dismissal, and also wrongful dismissal with malicious intent, right? So punitive damages. required from this particular board of directors. So, well, she didn't have to sue us because the new board came in and we dealt with it properly. I'll just say that to you, that we made that right. We set this record straight, and we corrected that crime, which is really what it was. So everything is fine. And now she's also coming back. She's coming back to work with us as a consultant. So she's also, again, she's not right beside us every step of the way. So it's a battle that we go into together. Yeah.
What can we do to help the pro-life efforts in Canada?
Oh my goodness, yeah, we need help. We need help. My friend Alex Schadenberg, he's with the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. Stand up so they can see this man. The work that he does in this for our country is amazing. Thank you, Alex. He's got a booth outside, and we have some information. Delta Society, he's got some information there for you, what you can do to help us. We need you to, maybe I'll... Oh yeah, come to Victoria. Come to our rally. Come to our rally. I mean, I would love people to get up, send an email. I'd love people to send an email. Yeah, become a member of the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. Exactly. We'll put the email of Adrian Dix, BC Minister of Health, Adrian Dix. Send him an email. Google him. Send him an email. Tell him you're not happy, that you're not impressed with how they operate up there, right? This is a universal question. It's not a matter of jurisdiction. I mean, these are pro-life issues. So you can just give them an email. That would be great.
One last question. This is a big question. To answer, you could give an entire talk. And then remember, I'll have some announcements. So what's your take on the answer to this question? We've been hit by a tidal wave of moral relativism and secularization and political correctness. What is the end game?
Well, the end game is communism. This is all cultural Marxism, right? That's what it is. Oh yeah. The destruction of the family, the destruction of your personal rights, your private property. I mean, it all stems from that. You see, the communists, they realized what they did. They didn't do a great job last time because it failed miserably, right? So they rebranded themselves. Oh, we're going to do it different now. Now it's the oppressed versus the oppressors. It's not just the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat, right? And in that, they go, oh, everybody's oppressed. If you're not white, you're oppressed. If you're not, okay. Well, listen, I'm an oppressor. Okay, right here I am. I'm white. I'm straight. I'm Christian. I'm a conservative woman. Oh my goodness, right? So, and I'll always be an oppressor, and I'll be oppressed. So that's how they rejig this question, and it's incredibly successful. It's incredibly potent, and powerful, feminism, and all of these things that all sort of work into euthanasia, right? It's all part of the same puzzle here. The greatest thing you could ever do was, vote President Trump back in, I think, and tell these Democrats, no way, man, no way.
Please, one last round of applause for the heroic Angelina Ireland.